How's it going, everybody? It's your Moso Prince Steel TethysAutism Yorkshire, and I thought, in light of me doing this Run for Autism challenge in the month of October, and if you want to donate, the links will be in the description of this video, on my TikTok and my YouTube, and also in the descriptions of my bios and on the pinned videos on either social platform. But I thought I'd talk about my experiences with autism through a series of videos to sort of get you to understand why I'm doing this challenge and why I feel very passionately about this challenge. So I've termed this series, and you'll love this because it took me about 5 seconds to come up with it, TethysAutism Diaries. TethysAutism Diaries. It's brilliant because I'd termed myself a Yorkshireman with autism, a autistic. So I guess you could say I'm a autistic with TethysAutism. I'm thinking a bit too hard about this. So the aim of this series is sort of to give you an insight into my experience with autism. I'm going to speak from a lot of personal experience. I'm going to give my own opinions on autism and my experience with autism. And if that's certain things that people don't agree with, you know, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. And I totally understand that, but I'm speaking from my experience at the end of the day. But hopefully I can also impart some advice onto people who either have just found out they're got autism, or young autistic people, or, you know, even adults who've got autism, and sort of impart some advice I might have from, because to be fair, I've been very lucky with the way I've tackled sort of living with autism and the support system I've had around me as well. So to start off this series, TethysAutism Diaries episode 1, if you like, or whatever you want to call it, we go back to the start with when I was actually diagnosed with autism. And I just want to clarify something. I prefer the term man with autism. I don't like the term autistic man, because to me, autism doesn't define who I am. It's just a part of me. The person that I am is much more than my autism. I am much more than the condition that I have been diagnosed. So autistic man don't really fit me. Man with autism, you know, perfectly happy with that, because I see me sen more than my autism, you know. But anyway, sorry about that. I should have called this TethysAutism Rambles. So yeah, it was about 17 years ago. I'm 28 now. About 17 years ago when I was diagnosed with autism, so about 11-year-old. And before then, I always knew in school that I was the sort of weird kid. I was one of them weirdos, and I was fine with that, you know. I were into my dinosaurs, my wrestling. What else was there? There were Thomas Tank Engine when I was a lot younger. What else was there? My point is that there were a lot of weird interests that other young lads and lasses around those ages, you know, 7 to 11-year-old, they weren't into that. They were sort of growing up a bit more, you know. A lot of the lads were into football. I were never into football, me. Actually, only one in my family who's not bothered about football. But yeah, so I sort of garnered that I was different, but I could never figure out why. And then it weren't until I actually got taken to see I guess a child psychologist or what have they at an hospital, and I got diagnosed there and then. You know, we sort of recognised that you display traits of what they termed back then Asperger's syndrome. Some of my family members now, they still call it Asperger's syndrome, but I don't know. I think it's been changed to high functioning autism. I'm not entirely sure, but you know, but call me whatever. I'm not too fussed. I'm not bothered. So the diagnosis sort of clicked a few things in my head for me, and it sort of was like, oh, all right, fair enough. No, that makes sense. And then from there, I had an idea of, okay, this is what makes me behave this way. And then it isn't until I'm older that I sort of get an idea of, okay, I've got this condition. How do I work with the world so that I can, you know, live a good life, sort of thing. And that's what sort of the diagnosis has done for me. I mean, it's still affecting me to this day, the diagnosis. To conclude this episode, basically, the diagnosis was sort of, in a way, expected. It was expected that there was going to be something revealed about me that was different from other kids. But to have this, it was sort of like, oh, right, that makes sense. So I've got this is part of me, this explains a lot. Now comes the work of how to best adapt to the world in a way. So we'll save that for another episode, but you know, I hope you've enjoyed this. I know it's a little bit different from what I typically do on these sort of social media sites, but I hope this actually is comforting to certain people, you know, other people with autism. I hope this is comforting. But yeah, let me know in the comments, share this video, and yeah, again, please, if you if you can possibly put some donations in for Run for Autism for October, and let's get some money raised and support people with autism. All right, I'll see you later. Ta-da. Bye.